Come here, Julian. I was trying to say. And lined up there by the tennis courts in front of those trees. Yes! I think that's
Gail, front center, we want a picture of your family down here. It's different now because now we want to down here on the front.
You gotta be in front. Come on. Does he not watch? Alex, escaping. Alex, come on.
You're a kid.
I'm gonna pick him up.
No.
There goes Alan.
I don't think so. Bud, where are you? It was hard for me to get down the steps. Or he's out there. No, we want our food here. So.
Where is Bud?
Bud, you're old enough to work.
You're out, Emily.
And then we need to get Danny's Bud.
Where's Bud?
Why don't you little things this is just hiding back. How about Julie get on that step with Michael?
Well then,
Is it too crowded?
I'm okay though. I don't
Then we
have to
can
be
look over
superior.
here. What about Erica?
Julia. Erica, get in front of me. Yeah, no.
Oh, look, they're all taller. How much are taller than me?
Just make sure we can all see the picture.
There, you're not really sitting.
Wait, she's hiding behind me now.
Andy!
Somewhere.
Oh, cool. I gotta sit behind me.
How tall are you, Rachel?
Verlaine and I, because Gail and Verlaine and Bud and I and Dolores, we all went to church school together. We had no choice. Yeah, we were all there. Anyway, we had a 2-room church school in Pontiac, and Miss Bankhauser had had the lower grades, and Mrs. Glidden had the upper grades. And let's see, Miss Bankhauser taught at that time, I think, grades 1 through 6. And when I was, I think, in the 1st grade or 2nd grade, something like that, well, they used to, I know this is hard to believe, but they used to deliver milk to the school in a horse and buggy. That is a fact.
That's how far back we go.
Yes, yes. What do you want? What's that?
Over the last road in Grass Lake this year.
Yes.
The funeral home came through with the horse and buggy and the
The hearse. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did those.
Uncle Norman, you mean they just didn't bring the cows over?
No, yeah, well, we had to do our milking chores when we got home that day, and early in the morning, before we came to school. And we walked to school and back, uphill both ways, barefoot. Anyway, we used to get our milk in glass bottles, small pint-sized glass bottles, with cardboard tabs in the top. And the local dairy was the Maple Leaf Dairy, which was 2 short blocks from the church school. And we used to enjoy our milk. They would deliver it every day, and it was very good, usually. One day for milk, or for lunch, I opened my milk and put the straw in, and I thought it tasted kind of funny, but that didn't bother me. I drank it anyway. And got down to the bottom of the bottle, and there was a cigarette butt down at the bottom of the bottle. And I took it up to the teacher, and she said, I think the dairy would like to see this. And so she said, I'm going to send you down to the dairy. Now, can you imagine a teacher nowadays sending the kid, a 1st grader, off the school grounds 2 blocks away to the dairy? But those were the days we lived in, simple. But then Verlaine, she saw that, and she says, I want to go too, let me go. And so Miss Bankhauser said, well, sure, why don't you both go down? So we went down to the dairy, and Miss Bankhauser instructed us to ask to talk to the manager. we went into the receptionist, and she said, "Oh yes, he's here. He would like to see you." So they escorted us into the desk, and I took it up to his desk and I showed it to him, and he says, "Oh, that's interesting." And he says, "Let me have that." And he took it aside. He says, "I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a free bottle of milk." And I thought, that's great. And so he said, "What would you like, white or chocolate?" And I said, "I'd like chocolate." And he says, "I'm going to give your sister one too." I says, "Well, nothing wrong with her glass. She didn't get anything in it." And I says, "Well, I would like one." And so he said, "Sure, I'll take it." So he brought us out 2 chocolate milks, and we were so proud that we got to take that back. So we were...
We thought they were exceptionally nice about
yes,
that.
they
didn't
were so good. No lawsuit, no Board of Health, no nothing. Taken care of simply and cleanly. So then a while later, Dolores, where is she? Where's Dolores? Oh, there she is. She went on a trip when she was a young teenager. What were you, 12? 12. Down to Pennsylvania on the bus.
Yeah, Greyhound bus
All by herself to go visit a childhood neighbor that had just moved away. Sharon McDonald.
Why would I remember that?
Oh, that's awesome. Because she was 12. Okay, you went twice then.
You went to see somebody after
Yeah,
you
so
were married.
Mary Glenn and I went to a place the other side of Lansing to see Lake Odessa to see some
You
distant
went to
relatives.
see somebody
Oh.
Viva.
Oh,
Well, I was driving at the time. So anyway, there was a part of Blacktown in downtown, south side of downtown Pontiac that had a pretty rough, what they call a mini downtown section of their own. And it had what they called the Club 88. It was on the corner, and there was a signal light there. And her bus was coming into Detroit bus station at midnight. So Dad was going down to get her, and I said, "Well, yeah, well, I was driving." Anyway, I drove, and we decided we were in a hurry, so we cut right through the middle of that part of town to save some time. We got stopped at a signal light right at the main corner of their part of town.
How old are you, Norman?
Well, we were trying to argue that out.
She was 12, he was only 14. It happened after we were married.
Honey, that's impossible.
Did
Whatever. She got married 3 weeks after we did.
I know.
Yes. Well, anyway, whatever. We then, yes, I drove and stopped at this signal light. Dad was sitting in the front passenger seat. And if those of you who remember Dad, he was a lot of fun, but in a lot of ways he was a straight arrow. A Puritan. Anyway, we stopped at this light, and out of the shadows came this lovely young lady of the night. Came up to his window. We're sitting there at the signal light, waiting for the light, and she tapped on his closed window glass. She says, he says, "What?" He rolled the window down. And then she said more loudly, she says, "Do you want to see a girl?" He thought about it. He said, "I should say not."
Norman. He wasn't as straight arrow as I grew up believing he was, hearing the story about at work, the Playboy magazines he'd come across.
Yeah, but that's Norman's
Well, he and I worked together for many years, as most of the boys did, cleaning carpet. And we, at one time, we were in somebody's house, and they had a Playboy magazine on the coffee table there, and they weren't around anywhere. They'd gone shopping or something. So he picked it up and he looked at it. He said, "Isn't this disgusting? Isn't this?" He didn't miss a thing.
This is so awful. This is terrible.
But don't worry, he was only looking at the pictures. He didn't read.
And
Did you pick
Norman,
it up for the article?
Yes.
tell the story, Norman, about when he came home, he said to you, "Norm, you should have been with me today."
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
This was back in the early 70s or late 60s, somewhere in there. I was working full time with him, but that day I didn't go to work with him. We were married. I guess I was gone on another job. And he came home one summer evening and with a kind of a embarrassed smile on his face. And Mother had sent him to work that day with a brand new pair of summer elastic waisted light summer weight trousers. And he had to clean at that customer's house, which happened to be on a busy street with a large picture window in the front living room window facing the street. And they had what they call an upholstered valance that matched the drapes that we would clean because they couldn't take it to the dry cleaners. And so he was up on a stepladder in front of the window. He had a screwdriver in his hand and he was letting loose the one end of the valance. And he was stretching up there when all of a sudden, and this lady, this customer, standing there talking to him the last he knew, he was reaching up like this, and all of a sudden his elastic waist gave way to his ankle. And he's standing there in his holy boxer shorts in the picture window and frantic because he was so embarrassed. And he's trying to do a delicate dance on the stepladder, trying to get his pants, but the valance is loose and he can't let go. He's got the screwdriver and he drops it. He finally got his pants up. He looks around, the woman is nowhere in sight. He doesn't know whether she was there and left or whether she missed the whole show. But he pulled his pants up. When we got home from work that night, he said, "Norm, I sure wish you'd been with me."
I know. Threadbare.
But Bud, I've got a very similar hoary story that happened to me much the same way. I can tell this story because I don't believe there's a soul here that hasn't had the same experience. So we're all in a sisterhood, brotherhood.
That's right.
Yes. I went to work and it was a hot summer day again, and it was one of those tri-level houses where the kitchen and living room is on this floor, the bedrooms are up half stairs, family room and laundry is down in the lower part. And oftentimes the customer will go shopping and leave you alone because you're going to be there for 4 or 5 hours cleaning whatever needs to be done. And I was so hoping that this lady would leave because I had a sudden case of diarrhea that was just terrible. And she hung around and she hung around and I was getting greener by the minute. And finally she said, "Well, I'm going to go downstairs and do some laundry." And I thought, well, that's the best I can do. So she went downstairs to the laundry room and I shot upstairs to the bathroom, went in and closed the door and barely got on the toilet, and you know how that feeling is. Such great relief.
And the noise?
The noise, the odor, everything. And I thought, oh, I feel so much better. Until I looked down at the floor beside me, I didn't know that they were remodeling the bathroom, and there was a hole this big that went down to the laundry. So she heard, saw, felt, probably everything. So I got out of there as quickly as I could, and I went back down, cleaning away in the living room. And she comes flying up the stairs, and she says, "I'm going shopping." I flew out of the house. I never worked for her again. She never called me back.
Did you clean up her toilet?
Yeah, I imagine so. I know I was glad to get out of there.
Allow me to come back to Grandpa Wilson's underwear.
Oh, which one now?
They were the last to go. I mean, you know, there's money to be spent on a whole lot of other things besides underwear. So you can visualize those underwear on him in front of that picture window.
Yes.
I was remembering having laundered his underwear for a number of years, how paper thin
Yes. Holes
they
everywhere.
were. Holes and skid marks that were forever in.
Exactly what time we'd be coming in from college, and they knew we were coming, but it was late. We didn't get in there until about 2 in the morning, having left Berrien real late. And walked in, and I just creaked the door lock and walked in. And Dad prided himself on being a light sleeper, but he'd forgotten that momentarily that Mary was going to be with me or something. He heard a noise in the night, so he got up in his old boxer shorts and come stumbling down the stairs to see what the noise was downstairs. And he comes down, he got down just about to the landing, and he sees Mary for the first time. And he's standing there in his boxer shorts and goes, "Oh, excuse me, excuse me." And skips backwards all the way down the stairs. And another time, we came home in the middle of winter, and it was so cold and snowy, and we just pulled up in front of the house. I hadn't even had a chance to turn off the car yet, and again, it was like 2 in the morning, and all of a sudden, the front door went flying open. Here comes Dad running out to the car at the curb, and come out and jerk the car door. What in the world is going on? He says, "Are you all right? Are you all right? Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, why?" And he says, "All right, well," he says, "one of the kids, he had read in the paper that day that they had gotten asphyxiated in their car. That's all he could think about. He woke up instantly when we drove in, but thought we had perhaps been there for hours in the car. So
You just heard a car running.
He heard the car running. He come rushing out there thinking the worst. So
I didn't know that story.
it scared him pretty good. So Mary had quite an interesting introduction. Yeah, we were talking.
Oh, so you were out there for a little while. You were out there for a little while, maybe?
Well, we were learning Braille.
Norman, tell everybody about how you used to work the neighborhood to the point where you'd forget about coming home for supper, and what you said one time when you did get home.
Oh, your dad was there. Well, down the street from where we lived was the village bully. He was probably our oldest brother Danny's age, but he was mean. He would take pleasure in scaring me.
He liked to shoot at us with his BB gun.
Yeah, he was a real juvenile delinquent and scared us all. I mean, he was like the neighborhood mobster. And anyway, he would scare us pretty good. And there was an old lady lived across the street from us, and she'd send me to the corner grocery store.
Mrs. Katz?
Yes, Mrs. Hess. And she'd send me down to get a quart of milk or whatever. Well, one day, when I was walking down the street in front of his house, he came out to the curb and he says, "When you come back from the store, I'm going to keep the car." It scared me to death.
Typical bully.
Yes. Oh, hi. Welcome. Yeah, pull up. If you find some chairs, sit down. This is story time with Uncle Arthur.
Husband and your retired
My husband had my parents
You'll be okay.
Oh, that's
I think most of them are still here. I think maybe one couple left. Sure.
Yeah. Mike and Valerie. They were going to go to the graveyard. David's. That's what they said they were doing. Oh, yeah, goodness, 3. 5. Oh, my goodness. She was 5.
The Warren Watson was this guy's name, and he was the neighborhood bully. And he threatened me when I was going to the store, and he says, if you come back this way, then I'm going to beat the tar out of you. And I believed him. So when
Well, history would, you know.
Yes. So when I then got the stuff I needed, I went way around the block and delivered the stuff, I guess, because another time then I was out doing the same thing and he bullied me again. And this time I was really afraid to come home that way. So I went up Stout Street and around that way, and I was going to come back around through houses to get around him. Anyway, I stopped at this lady's house. Their name was Vern and Emily or somebody like this, a couple that were living in the apartment house on Stout Street. They invited me in, and they'd heard that we were church people. So they asked me all about different Bible stories and what I knew. And they kept me for 2 or 3 hours telling them Bible stories. And in the meantime, it got dark, but I didn't know it was dark because I was inside where it was light.
No, it's not.
And they should have known better, but I didn't. Anyway, I stayed there for hours. My mom and dad were getting kind of concerned because it was after dark and I was gone for, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours now. Finally, I told the folks that told them that I should go home now. And so I left and I came home, and it happened that your dad, Mr. Racine, was over at my folks' house for some reason or other. And so when I walked in the door, Dad met me and he said, "Where have you been? We've been looking all over for you." I said, "Well, I was just out sharing my faith." That was really a big part of MV at that time. You know what MV is?
Yeah.
All that missionary volunteer, the Sabbath afternoon vespers and all that. Oh, this is a very important story. Just gotten in the last 2 years, and I don't think Glenna has heard this story. And I'd like to get Glenna's take on this. Another neighbor. She called me about 2 years ago, and her name, she says, I don't know if you remember me or not. She says, my name is London. My name was Mrs. London.
Jack London's
Jack
mother?
and Patty London's mother.
Huh.
And she was a nurse who worked midnights at Pontiac General Hospital, which was 2 or 3 blocks away, and she would walk to work and back. But she, by reason of her work schedule, would sleep in until noon.
They live right next to the Chestnut Church?
Yes. They
Up
lived
there where the bars are that I used to go over those bars.
Palmer Street.
The bars are still there.
Yes. That's where she lived.
In London?
Glenna knows where she lived.
They
Yes.
had
What I do.
a bar.
Well, anyway,
around their
she
yard.
told me, she says, I've got to tell you a story about something that, see, I played with her son Jack a lot, and his sister Patty was close friends with Verlaine.
Yeah.
Anyway, she said, I woke up at noon one day hearing a sawing noise.
I was probably eating in there too.
Anyway, she heard a sawing noise. She looked out the back window of her bedroom window, and there was Jack and I. We had taken the leaf out of her dining room table, and we were cutting it up to make a go-kart.
Oh, no.
She said, I sent you home. And I really have no recollection. She says, and then she says, your sister Glenna? She said, I remember her well. She said Glenna had a habit of coming up most every day, and in those days nobody locked their doors, and perhaps she should have. Glenna was a common thief. Glenna would walk in, and this lady would still be in bed trying to sleep, but Glenna would walk in usually around 11 and walk into the kitchen, get in and get a cereal bowl, cereal, milk, pour herself some breakfast, she was finished, she'd say, "Well, I'm all done now. I'm going home." And promptly turn around and walk out and go home.
Vaguely. I don't remember it very well.
Well, she
It sounds like something Glenna would do, though.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all agree?
Yeah.
Head of the cartel even there.
Yeah.
We had a large family. There wasn't
Yes.
always a lot of cereal around.
Well, another time, there was so many in our family that it was easy to leave one at church.
Hi, Dee. How are you?
And Mom and Dad left me at church alone. And old Mr. Elder Schumann, who's the local elder, felt sorry for me because I'm standing on the doorstep of the church crying. And he figured, well, Wilson said nothing. Either accidentally on purpose, I'm not sure which, but he put me in his Model A and drove me home, and my folks didn't even know I was missing until I came to the front door.
Well, if I recall, I remember Daddy saying that Norman was the dreamer. Yeah. And was never really cognizant of what the family was doing. That's true. And couldn't be on time.
Oh,
So you probably got left because you were busy in the church
yes.
doing the most. Visiting with everybody.
Yes.
At that point, trying to get a look at the plane or whatever. But your dad was always one that would take you kids to the Saturday evening activities that were sponsored by the church. And all of your brothers and sisters had friends throughout the city, and some miles away. And they would say, "Oh, Dad, can't you go get Arlene Wright? She doesn't have a way to get there." And Arlene Wright probably lived a good 20-25 miles
Oh, that's that.
from your dad's place. I can hear him say yes. Oh, I suppose so.
Yeah.
Say that?
Yes.
I suppose
And
so.
so he made his rounds picking up your friends
Yeah.
to get us to whatever it was.
Roller skating or whatever it was.
Maybe it was a
Party at the Grubers.
something.
Well,
So I'll never forget that.
yeah.
And then I want to say something about your mother. You've all heard of mother-in-law jokes.
Yeah.
And your mother never fit any of those jokes. She was an angel. And I remember around the kitchen table talking about different things. And if one of the in-laws wasn't there, perhaps the rest of us would kind of move in that direction and say things that maybe weren't what we should be saying about that person, but because he wasn't there. She invariably would stop that very appropriately and change the subject, or she would say something uniquely nice about that person. I'll never forget.
Yeah. And one time they had a chance to go somewhere, I don't know where it was, but they were going all alone. And I was determined that they weren't going to go alone. And I asked, I said, can I go? And they said, not this time. You're staying home. So-and-so's going to be here to babysit. You're all staying home. Mom and I are going out. And so while they weren't looking, I went out and snuck in the back of the car, laid down on the floor behind the front seat. And I was real quiet. And they got in the car and started down the street. And I assumed that if they got 3 blocks down the street, it was safe to pop up. And I'm here. What are you going to do about it? And Dad laughed. He says, "Oh, I guess we're going right back home." And he took me right back home, deposited me on the front steps, and they took off again. So it didn't work.
You know, every once in a while, once every 5-10 years, Mom got to go out to eat at Bill Knapp.
Bill Knapp's or
No.
Ted's or
Ted's,
Susie Q.
Ted's Drive-In or
Ted's
something.
Trailer or Susie
Ted's
Q.
Trailer.
Those were her favorite places.
That was classy dining out. Mom.
The longer I serve him, the sweeter he
love he bestows. Each day is like heaven, my heart overflows. The longer I serve him, the sweeter he grows.
Amen.
Emily.
gentle shepherd.
The Lord with his countenance upon you, and give you peace, and give you peace. The Lord make his face to shine upon you, and be gracious unto you, and be gracious. The Lord be gracious, gracious
Okay, that was a crack. More she pulls out. Let's do it.
Amen.